like over 5 hours with this thing on Friday. More streamlined build, more base, definitely better looking on the eye than the baseline PS5. Games now run at 4K 60 frames on it, and you'll get a slight boost to PS4 games on it. That's pretty much almost unnoticeable, but it is there. I did observe it. Okay. So now to get back to the question from the tipper earlier, who is it? Wilson. Is this thing worth the price tag if you already own a PS5? Well, I'll say this. If you are a 4K gamer, if you are into 4K resolution, you have a 4K TV and you want the absolute tippy top experience, I would say, yeah, if that's what you're looking for. Okay. But I would argue that the vast majority of people who own a PS5 don't even know what quality they play games at. Most people just buy a console, hook it up to their TV, and just play. And it's unoptimized, and they don't even know how to optimize it, right? For those people, they probably won't even ever go into a menu and say, oh, let me enable the PS5 Pro mode in any of the games that they're playing, so they won't even know what's going on, right? If you are a techophile kind of guy or gal, if you want the absolute best resolution and you are playing at 4K all the time, then probably it's worth it. But that's like this percent of the overall player base of people who own PS5s, right? If you're looking for a boost to PS4, this is like not worth it at all. It's such a tiny minor difference. I wouldn't even spend $1 on it. Like seriously, it's the difference between you took a photo and here's your regular photo and you run it through one of those filters to make it look more crisp. Is it really better? I mean, not really. Maybe it's slightly increased, but it's not a big deal, right? I wouldn't spend $1 for that. I will tell you this. I made one observation by the end of my session there with it, okay? So while I was playing Dragon Age Veilguard, someone said to me, hey, Phil, I think it was Iron Chef Sakai actually, said, hey, Phil, how is it running? Have you listened? And have you tested the temperature yet? And I said, no, that's a good question. So I went over to it and I knelt down and I started listening. It was pretty quiet. Admittedly, like, you know how PS4 infamously sounds like a jet engine? Like you're in a wind tunnel and it's just blasting you? This wasn't very loud at all. And I was running the game at the time. So it wasn't really doing anything noise-wise, okay? But, dude, I put my hand down next to it and that sucker was hot. Like, I'm not talking, oh, it's like a little bit of warm air was blowing out. No, like, it felt like it was like a heater. Like, you could be sitting next to this to warm up in the winter. That's how hot this thing was running. Now, listen, I didn't temperature test it. I didn't temperature test my baseline PS5 either. But when something's running that hot, that makes me feel like, number one, you absolutely need to give this thing big ventilation. And I do. It actually has almost the entire bottom shelf of my entertainment center, and it is opened on every single side around it, open air, so that way it's getting maximum airflow and it's not confining the heat to like a small area, which would probably be disastrous. Okay. So you need to give it aeration. That's number one. Number two, if it's like some people game in like cramped rooms and stuff, I could imagine this thing like significantly raising the ambient temperature of your room by like 15 degrees if you play for a couple of hours. I mean, it was that hot. And I was like, dang, you know, I can't imagine trying to do this in like a bad or cramped setup. This is like a techophile console. If you're going to sit there and you're going to tweak the settings of each game, try the different modes, you're going to give it proper aeration. You know, this is not, oh, I'm just going to buy a PS5 Pro for $700 on a whim, come home, plug it in and get the best experience. You're not. You got to mess with it a little bit, right? So, yeah. So, I mean, $700, if you don't have a PS5, okay, you don't have one at all, and you're gonna buy a PS5, you're like, well, I just want the Pro. If you're gonna play at 4K, if you have no idea if you're gonna be playing at 4K at all, I don't see why you would want a PS5 Pro. I just don't understand it. Like, what would the purpose be? It's not gonna even use the better hardware unless you're playing at 4K. Like right now, I'm playing games at 120 hertz, 1080p on baseline PS5. I already was. So why do I need the PS5 Pro? The answer is I don't. You know, you only need it if you're going full 4K and you want the 60 frames, all right?